Fluffal might be one of the coolest strong decks in Duel Links right now, and a lot of people don't know how strong it is yet. While the new skill is good, it's far from being as ridiculous as some other really strong skills in the meta now, like this one, that one, or even this one. But Frightfur does not need an overpowered skill. The build I will show you today does also not play any tech cards. No backrow, no board breakers, no hand traps, because it does not need them. We will start by explaining how to build the deck, and then demonstrate how to play the deck going second, and how to play the deck going first. But with no further ado, enjoy!
Perfectly balanced is all things should be.
The new skill, although not insane by modern standards, is very useful with two helpful effects. We can shuffle back an edge imp to add a different edge imp, and we can equip any opposing monster to Frightfur Bear. The first part of the skill is nice because outside of patchwork we have no way of searching edge imp scythe, and this card is our best defensive option, as most Fluffal cards specify edge imp sabers. So what you can do now is search for sabers, and then use the skill to return it and grab scythe. The second part of the skill is a helpful way of beating monsters that cannot be targeted or destroyed, such as a Sacred Beast with Fallen Paradise active, or a Dingirsu. You can play free scythe, but an issue I found with consistency was drawing too many edge imp cards, as you cannot do anything with only edge imps in your hand, which is also why the deck count is 26 and not 20. While playing the smaller deck count normally makes sense, by going to 26 we can fit some much needed utility options into the deck, as it's really hard to fit cards like this in a smaller deck count. And as long as you have enough strong engine cards to fill out the rest of your deck, then it is perfectly fine to play a higher deck count. An extra benefit of playing a larger deck count is that we get to draw repair in our opening hand a lot less. As a turn 1 play, I often use Whale to send repair to then extend into Dweller, but it's not always the best card to draw. If Fluffal had a few more strong engine cards to fill out the deck further, then you could even argue going to 30 and playing 2 more options for utility in Fluffal Cat and Fluffal Owl. Both these cards are nice, but I did not value them more than Dolphin or Sheep. Dolphin allows us to set up huge advantage combos with Vendor and Wings very easily, and Sheep allows us to loop our resources more effectively, in addition to giving us an extra body to make Nightmare Phoenix. 2 sabers comes up for when I banish 1 with Frightfur Fusion. I think you only need 1 Frightfur Fusion because it can just add to bad hands, and it's easy to search with Edge Imp Chain. We also only need 1 Chain because we can search it with both the skill and with Patchwork. If you have free Patchwork, I recommend playing free, but as long as you own at least 1, the deck will work perfectly fine. Simply adjust the deck size accordingly if you don't have 2 and 3. We're on only 1 Wings and 2 Poly to avoid bricking, and the rest of our engine cards is all the good stuff, so we play the max amount. Free Penguin is likely the more questionable part, but I like free because it pairs well with Scythe, Fusion, and Poly, and it also helps make Dweller. You do not need any tech cards in this deck going first, not even Chiroid, because going first you just make Dweller, with Scythe behind it to make either Cruel Whale or Nightmare, and that is normally enough to avoid being OTK'd. When we go first, we aren't trying to stop them from playing, we're trying to survive turn 2 and then have an insane follow-up into an OTK on turn 3. You also need no tech cards going second, because your engine already OTKs them quite easily. You can break their board and then keep Scythe in hand to interrupt them with Cruel Whale on their turn. The only Frightfur Fusion monster I use 2 of is Cruel Whale, as for some combos going first I make it and send Repair to extend into Dweller. Nightmare, Bear, Tiger, and Kraken I all found to be quite important, but a second copy of these never came up, except from occasionally Tiger. Unless you're trying to OTK through 2 Kiteroids, I don't find Wolf to be too useful. Fluffal already OTKs through 1 Kiteroid relatively easily. Sabertooth is one of the strongest fusion monsters in the deck, and I do like it. I just found that Nightmare is a bit more useful to have as a defensive option, especially against decks where Whale doesn't do much. For example, against an Avalon, Sowing protects them from Whale, but summoning Nightmare is nice because it can negate the effect of Bengal Lancer. For the rank 4 I play Dweller because it helps us survive in a lot of different matchups, and I use Nightmare Phoenix to help us OTK and work around weird scenarios better. It can help you fill the graveyard for fusion or discard cards like Vendor and Chain to get their effects. I also tried Star Liege as another option, because it helps against backrow as well as Veiler and Mourner, but I went with Phoenix because it is easier to summon. If you're wondering what a slightly cheaper version of this deck would look like, you can make a deck like this with very few gems, using single box runs and a couple of dream tickets. Enjoy the gameplay. We're going to lead with Patchwork into Poly and Sabres. The reason to get Sabres here is because we're going to be going into Tiger to pop our own Toy Vendor. And then, because we did so, we can now use the Vendor to go ahead and grab either Bear or Dolphin. So the difference is that Bear would play better into Veiler, because if we go Dolphin and they Veiler that, we won't get our draws from the wings. And from the delay we just saw there, and here now, we can tell that's most likely a Veiler in their hand. Because it makes sense that you wouldn't really want to Veiler the Tiger in that scenario. Activate Vendor. Then we get the draw 2 from the wings, plus a search as well. And Vendor will search, grab Dog, because although it does hurt a bit if they use Veiler on the Dog, we still have a pretty decent defensive option if they do that. Now, because they let that go through, I'm feeling like it's probably not a Veiler. But even if they do choose to Veiler the Sheep here, then that's still pretty fine because we can still bring back the Sabres from a graveyard. And the reason to bring back Sabres from the graveyard is the skill can also return edge imps from the field as well. It's not just from hand. So we're going to go ahead and do this now to return the Sabres and grab a Scythe. And then we're just going to go ahead and pass on that. Which isn't a super layered turn 1, because we didn't quite have enough gas to make Dweller as well. If we had an extra edge monster, we could have gone ahead and gone into Cruel Whale, and then Cruel Whale could dump the Repair, then we go Repair into a level 4, and then make Dweller that way. Okay, this is Tachyon. Now Dweller is not very good against Tachyon, so we're going to make our board as tough as possible for them to OTK through. And in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and use Bear. Bear into Vendor. Vendor pitch Vendor. Now, assuming we draw nothing relevant off Vendor, if we whiff entirely, that is perfectly fine because Vendor can grab Dolphin. But we don't whiff, and I think we do summon here. Yeah, we do summon. There's a delay here, that's probably a Veiler, but it's Skull Meister, which is actually even nastier. I wonder, do I have to set the Sabres here, or do I just end up losing if I hold it in hand? I'm going to say that I probably should switch this out for Chain, and then set Chain. Because Chain, when it gets sent to grave, can then grab Patchwork for next turn. Then we can try and make do with Scythe into the Cruel Whale, which, although it is only one interruption, is a very good interruption. The worst case scenario here is either if they go for Dingirsu early, or if they open the counter trap. Normally, this deck is really good against negations because you can chain block against negations very easily, but the Tachyon counter trap says no to chain blocking as it negates everything in the chain. I'm gonna grab Parsec off of the skill. normal summon with Parsec. To play around Dingirsu or not to play around it? That is the question. I'm going to say that yes, I should play around it. So we're going to go ahead and go into the Cruel with the Scythe and the Penguin. Then we can go Cruel 1, Penguin 2, because if they Skull Meister this, that's perfectly fine. Then we can chain before we draw 2 to get it out of the deck. The copy of Repair. And we're going to discard the... pretty sure it's Bear here, isn't it? Yeah, discard Bear because we have no more vendors left anyway. Pop Vendor, and we're going to pop the Parsec or the Nebula. Nebula has an effect in the grave, but there currently is no safer anyway. I'm going to go Vendor. Vendor will add Dolphin, because Dolphin here is actually better than Dog. Because Dolphin, Reset Vendor, Send Wings is a lot better than normal summon Dog in this scenario. It's for Swords Shard. Now I believe if they want Counter Trap, they need an extra body for Counter Trap, don't they? So this means they likely have it in their hand already to use with a Galaxy monster. Or they're just going for the Ranko spell. Okay, sure. Going into the Chaos one zone. Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. So we don't lose from just this here. We're going to ladder this up into the full armor. We can protect from this if they target this, which I will definitely do. Because even though they can of course ladder up again into the Cypher, that does make it a bit harder for them to OTK. Because the way that playing Fluffal going first normally works is we're just trying to survive. Because if you survive, you will most likely win on the following turn, in most cases. And then we get the Patchwork. I think, personally, it's a bit risky to swing there because you just gave me a Patchwork for free. You knew it was probably there because I searched it, but on the same time, I could have just fused it off, or linked it off on my turn anyway, so it might not have made much of a difference. Okay, let's go ahead and go Patchwork into Poly and Scythe. Or actually, maybe it's Patchwork into Poly and Sabers. It doesn't actually matter too much. Yeah, because Sabers can also be returned anyway, depending on how they interrupt my first line of play. Going to negate the Patchwork, okay. We're going to go ahead and normal summon Dolphin here. They don't have an interruption. I gave it some thought, and if they did interrupt me there, I would be pretty fine. Oh, they do have an interruption. Okay, well, now I can show you then. Because we're just going to go ahead and use the skill to shuffle back the Sabers for a copy of Scythe. They do not have a Cypher engrave to float into. Because this cannot float into Tachyon or into full armor. Gonna make Cruel, then we're gonna go ahead and go Penguin and Cruel. Do it in this order now in case they have Skull Meister. Pop, pop, protects. Time is a bit low because I've been doing something else at the same time, but we are chill, we are vibing. Time is not real. Time is a social construct. Normal summon Safer, that by itself will not do anything. And there we go, GG. Fluffal best deck. Our hand is very edge heavy, but that's okay. 2 chances to hand fix here. 1 from our draw for turn, and 1 from our draw for toy vendor. And just one of those has to find us a Fluffal monster. And the chances, as you can see from a deck list, are pretty high to draw a Fluffal monster in 2 draws. Drawing vendor would also work too. Whereas Dolphin, that is good. Not the greatest one to draw here, but that is perfectly fine. Okay, let's go Patchwork into... We go into here. Poly, and we can go skill to find the Scythe before we pass turn anyway. Yeah. Yeah, so we're going to go Vendor first here, pitch for Chain, draw a card. Pick up a Penguin, that's an amazing draw. Summon to field. I'd rather they don't have the option to remove it with Suck Soul. So no. And then we're going to go Chain here. Chain's going to find us a copy of Frightfur Fusion. This is definitely a game where having 2 Tiger would be really good. But a lot of the time having that Cruel Whale does the same thing as having 2 Tiger anyway. 1-2 into the Cruel Whale. Now I'm doing Cruel Whale first instead of doing Tiger here, because Cruel Whale can dump the copy of Repair to extend into their board, should they have a negation for this. This guarantees trades with 2 backrow if they chain Suck Soul, which is the same thing that would happen if we went for Tiger here. A chain, dump a Repair, resolve, summons a Blue Eyes, and we're going to pop Vendor, pop a backrow. We will discard the... I think the Scythe here, actually. Yeah. Check the Scythe. Pop the Vendor. Pop a backrow. It's always good to try and make sure you have 2 cards on board when you go for Cruel Whale, because otherwise, if they remove your Cruel Whale, then you need a card to destroy. Like what happened here, of course. Now we can go Vendor up into Wings. We are just popping off super hard here. We're going to go ahead and use the Frightfur Fusion before we do anything else, get that last backrow out of the way, and we can just keep on going. We can kill them through Kite Void, we can do so many things here. Fluffal, when it draws a playable hand, is probably one of the strongest decks in the game, and the new support definitely helps that quite a lot. The skill helps too, but I think in general the skill mainly helps the deck going first. Makes it a lot more consistent. And there we go. Fluffal best deck. YouTube. Thank you for watching, hopefully you enjoyed, have a perfectly balanced rest of your day, and yeah, adios.